Today, we are honored to welcome a distinguished leader who brings both professional excellence and a deep commitment to giving back. Joining us is Mr. Lokesh Sikaria, a respected venture capitalist who also gives back by being part of the board at the Carlsen Center of Entrepreneurship and board of directors at Mercy Foundation. Welcome. Can you please introduce yourself and what you do as a venture capitalist and also your role on the Carlsen Center and the Mercy Foundation?
Well, thank you, Ada, for having me here. I basically am a venture capitalist based in California. We part of Moneta Ventures, which has offices in Austin and Folsom, and we primarily invest in early stage companies there. And because of this background, I felt like I would be able to contribute to the Carlsen Center and the Mercy Foundation. And so for both those organizations, I serve on the board there capacity I can. I guess I wish I could be more involved, but do the best I can in terms of spending the time to helping both those organizations there.
What inspired you to join these organizations?
The Carlsen Center was one where it was about entrepreneurship, and that's what I have done all my life. And it was a way of giving back in a field that I kind of knew, right? So, think about what the Carlsen Center does is it helps young entrepreneurs, even people in college, to think about entrepreneurship. It could be social entrepreneurship, for example, right? How do you start an organization for the social good? How do you start a for-profit company, a startup there? And I felt like a lot of my knowledge that I had gained in my career could be something I could contribute to at the Carlsen Center. And similarly at the Mercy Foundation, I was educated in a missionary school in India, and the Mercy Foundation, the Sisters of Mercy have done a just amazing job here in the region, and I felt like this was a good way to give back with an organization that had, in some senses, helped me with my education.
Was there a personal experience that shaped your interest in philanthropy?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was actually trying to remember, I think a eighth grade student and in Guwahati, India, and we were raising money for an orphanage that was actually founded by Mother Teresa. And, at that time, being kind of young, I didn't realize how well known and what a celebrity Mother Teresa had become worldwide. But I got a chance to meet her, and I joke about this. I said, a lot of people have, given awards to Mother Teresa, but I'm one of those fortunate few to actually get an award as an eighth grader for my efforts in helping the orphanage there. And so, in subsequent years, as I kind of grew up, as I kind of realized how big Mother Teresa was, it was like such an inspiration to know her story. And that experience, I would say, is probably the biggest contributor to the interest in philanthropy there.
Mercy Foundation has a long history. What makes its mission still relevant today?
So what the Mercy Foundation does is the basic goal for them is to help feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, educate the underserved, and care for the sick at the local Dignity Health hospitals and clinics. If you think about that mission, and the Sisters of Mercy have been at this for 150 years. You think about hunger, you think about homelessness, you think about educating the underserved. None of that, the need for that hasn't changed in all these years. And so it's just as relevant today as it was during the Great Depression, or it was, at any other time in our history. So I do think the Mercy Foundation does today is absolutely relevant and critical in today's world.
Can you please share a story or initiative that deeply impacted you?
It's the talk about the Mother Teresa story that I had. I think the story of the Sisters of Mercy itself is so fascinating and inspiring. To leave their homes, come to a new country, and then primarily dedicate their lives to serving the needs of others. That in itself is so inspiring. And then you think about the other organization I served, the Carlsen Center of Entrepreneurship. The Carlsen Center was founded by a generous donation from Dale Carlsen and his wife, Katie Carlsen. And you think about their stories too, right? They kind of rose from being, kind of earning their way through growing, starting with one. Dale Carlsen started with one mattress store, eventually grew to, over 300 locations, I think. His company trained, then got sold, and that's how he's made his money. So it's very inspiring for me to see somebody who could kind of start from ground up, scale over time, and then give back. So both these organizations, I think the founders and the basis in which these organizations came together are just models of inspiration, right? So with more time and effort and everything else, someday I hope to be able to do more for organizations like this.
How does the Mercy Foundation ensure that donations truly reach those in need?
The Mercy Foundation has an operating grant from Dignity Health. And how that works is that the Mercy Foundation is able to direct 100% of the contributions that people like you, anybody that gives to the Mercy Foundation, 100% of their donations can go to the program that the donors choose. Typically in an organization, charitable organization, what would happen is, let's say they raised, $100,000. And to raise that $100,000 and to run the organization, let's say their expenses was $20,000, what would happen is $80,000 would be used to serve the cause that you contributed to, right? So the costs of running the organization get taken out from the charity that people, give. What's neat about this arrangement, from my understanding, is that Dignity Health says, oh, it costs you $20, you know, uh, or $20,000 to raise that $100,000, to reimburse you for the 20,000, right? So essentially, what happened is the entire 100,000 could be used in the cause that it was meant to serve, which is very unique, and so really helps direct every dollar to the people who are in need. People feeding the hungry, sheltering the homeless, right? All of those things, every portion of the dollar can be used to contribute there.
What kind of transformation have you seen in the communities served?
I think when you think about the Carlsen Center, right? They're based in California State University in Sacramento, and the undergraduates, right, before the Carlsen Center, you would not think about entrepreneurship. Now, hundreds of students get free exposure to what entrepreneurship could be, right? Many of them will go on to get regular jobs when they graduate and everything else. But somewhere in their career, they will go back to what they learned at the Carlsen Center and hopefully use that knowledge to think about entrepreneurship, whether it be in the social setting or whether it be for profit. So I think, the impact will tell in years to come. It's a comparatively newer organization. And I personally have kind of experienced that when I was going to school at Berkeley. I had some exposure to some classes around entrepreneurship, and I really didn't get to use that for 3 years after I graduated. I was in a regular job for 3 years. But then when I did get an opportunity, I was again able to draw on that material. So I think the impact the Carlsen Center will be far beyond what these students learn in school. And then in contrast to the Carlsen Center, which is a new organization, the Mercy Foundation has been around forever. And you look at how many patients have gone through the Mercy hospitals in the past, which are now Dignity Health. It is mind-boggling to think about how many people have been served and in the community by them, and compounded over years and years and years. And so the transformation for them can be observed in the communities. They've uplifted the communities in that sense. And for the Carlsen Center, they are making that impact. And in the years to come, I do think that transformation will be seen clearly.
As a board member, what are your key responsibilities?
So, at the Carlsen Center, it's just bringing ideas about how to make their programs more effective, how to reach out to more students, to more entrepreneurs, how to make the programming better. right? Because I do have experience as a VC, I can bring all of that into play. Mercy Foundation is, sometimes it's interesting is how they look at things might be a little bit different than how I look at things because I come from more the VC world. So I learned from the different ways of how they think about it, but also some things I can bring which are common. So, for example, I'm part of the audit committee, right? So when it comes to their finances, I have experience and I've been part of other audit committees at my portfolio companies. So I'm able to bring some of that experience to bear with them. So in both these cases, though, my responsibility is comparatively marginal to help as a board director. And in both these cases, if more so, I would say the Mercy Foundation, if there's opportunities to help raise money, there's certainly an area that I can contribute in.
What's your favorite part about working in these organizations?
I think just seeing the immediate impact is gratifying, is a lot of fun. And then to me, what I find inspiring, it's a very beyond who they serve. I also find the people who are part of these organizations to be very inspiring, right? These are, in many cases, the other board members are very successful people, busy people who give their time and resources, and some of them are just incredible. I mean, they contribute 10 times more than I do, and they still maintain full-time jobs elsewhere. So that itself, I find a lot of fun and an inspiration to draw from. I didn't think that that would be the case when I first joined these organizations. I thought most of the inspiration will come from the people they serve. And sure, that's inspiring, but even the people that are actually doing the work are inspiring.
How do you make decisions on where to allocate resources?
So I am not part of that decision making process at the Carlsen Center. I, advise obviously and everything else. But at the Mercy Foundation, we formed a small team to look at which charities or subgroups does the Mercy Foundation spend money on and how they should decide whether those organizations their criteria lines up with the mission of the Mercy Foundation. So there, actually, it was interesting is, Ada, when you think about what we do as venture capitalists, we look at hundreds of opportunities to invest in, and we invest in like 3% of those opportunities, right? So 100 entrepreneurs might come and pitch us, and we'll invest in 3 of those deals. So to come up with the selection, we have to have criteria. We have to define what the criteria is, where based on which we come up with that decision. And so when it came to the Mercy Foundation, I tried to institute and incorporate some of those same ideas to say, what is the goal of the Mercy Foundation? And the charities we support, what's the match? How do we decide, and are these charities contributing to that mission? Do they also help us in overall fundraising? So figuring out ways that the organizations are aligned allowed us to allocate dollars to the ones that really had more synergies with our mission. So that's, I would say, the key ways kind of how I was able to influence some of the decision making when it came to allocating resources.
What are the biggest challenges at the leadership level in a nonprofit like this?
So what I find, and probably true, and you have done a great job of interviewing other people from nonprofits on your podcast in the past, and maybe you've heard something similar. But what I find the biggest challenge for the nonprofits is the fundraising aspect of it. The need is so great and the money available is so little. So how do you raise effectively for the organization? How do you even the people you're calling on, the demands on them for money is significant, right? There might be, if they're well-to-do, there might be hundreds of charities calling them. How do you distinguish yourself? So in my mind, the biggest challenge, from a leadership standpoint is how to help the Mercy Foundation and how to help them raise, and focus on the fundraising there.
How do you balance professional life with giving back?
Yeah, that's the difficult part. I'm still learning. I'm still growing in that regard. I have a job that's not really 9 to 5. It's a very over-encompassing job as a VC. I have to be there for our entrepreneurs and everything else, weekends, evenings. And, in the midst of all that, I want to be sure that I'm contributing to society in more ways than my job. And so it's hard, it's difficult, and I wish I could be better at it. But it's at the end of the day, you just have to make time, and just like you do for the family, you have to make time for the giving back and do whatever little you can. I mean, so do I do a great job of this? No, but do I try? Absolutely.
What advice would you give to the young people who want to contribute to society?
I think the advice is the same as what applies to me in some senses is your lives are busy. You spend your, studies to do, extracurriculars to go to, hang out with friends, everything else. There's so many aspects of life that, are busy. But in there, try to make room for, the how you can contribute to society. Join a nonprofit, join organizations. And what you will find is that it's a two-way street. Your giving of time will also help you learn so much. It's the best way to learn right now. Being part of a nonprofit, you will learn about finances, you will learn about how to manage things, how to do different programs, and how to interact with people. All of those things can contribute. So my biggest encouragement would be to join organizations, early, and do whatever little you can by doing that.
What small acts of mercy can people practice every day in life?
Yeah, the at the Mercy Foundation, we talk about this quite a bit. The what small acts of mercy, and I personally think about kindness. Everybody's trying to live a life, and things will go wrong. Some people will do actions which will not please you, but how do you respond in kindness? How do you? And I think that's the small acts of mercy. Do something little, do something which makes the other person feel better. And if all of us are doing that, I mean, we'll kind of, I think, uplift everybody. So that would be my little advice there.
If listeners remember just one thing from this conversation, what should it be?
That's a good question. And there is my dad who passed away 8 years ago. He used to have a very popular, he used to say something very frequently, and I used to love this, and it just has stuck with me. He would encourage us to do kind acts and do right things every day. And his theory was, he said, you know what, in every religion or most religions, there's this concept of that you get rewarded for all the good you did here when you lived, and you get punished for the wrong things you did. I mean, every religion has some form of that concept. And his joke used to be that God's system is now computerized. And so it doesn't take till the afterlife for the rewards and the punishments to come. It's a lot faster. And, that stuck with me. And I hope your listeners, find that fascinating. So the point of that is, let's do the good that we're supposed to do right here. And what you will see is you'll get rewarded for it right here. The whole thing, the feedback loop is a lot faster. So that would be my one thing. If people remember from this conversation, that would be it.
Thank you so much for your time. It means a lot to me. I hope that people get inspired by today's podcast. I appreciate all your effort and time.
No, thank you for having me, Ada, and great job with this podcast.
Thank you so much.